you that are looking for the Harebrained Schemes Battletech video game. Great game. We've got it on pre-order. We'll be playing it soon, but that's not what we're doing here. This is the tabletop game that Battletech and also the Mechwarrior franchises are derived from. So this is the original game. Let's do some quick introductions, and then we'll get down to it. Though, one note, if you are hearing this on our podcast stream, you're only hearing the MP3 side of this. There is a video side of this, so if you want to see the map combats and such, you can find that on YouTube. The link to our YouTube channels off of feartheboot.com, or if you want to watch it live as we stream it on Twitch, you can also find that link off of feartheboot.com. So, let's do some quick introductions. So, my name is Dan. I'm one of the hosts of the Fear the Boot role-playing game podcast. And the players that are joining me for this game, first up we got Johnny G.
Hello.
Another host from Fear the Boot, currently living in Jefferson City, so he's been on an extended hiatus from our roster. We got Chris Ings. And Chris here is, so what are you exactly? You're basically the Catalyst version of a press ganger?
Yeah, the Catalyst Demo Team, or CDT, is just a group of people who like playing Catalyst games, Battletech, Shadowrun, family games, all kinds of other stuff. And we do demonstration games at conventions, local hobby shops, spreading the word and having a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Chris and I are going to make an interesting brain trust because I worked on Battletech way back in its early days when it was still under the original FASA, not the new one. But I kind of stopped following the game, whereas Chris kept following it. And so my knowledge of the old stuff and his knowledge of the new stuff together is kind of going to be some crazy stuff. And by the way, we are going to be running Battletech with the role-playing game aspect. So if you think this is purely a board game, we're going to show you that it is also a role-playing game. And to keep it current, we're going to be using the A Time of War rules, which is the most recent edition of the Mechwarrior role-playing game. And for the sake of keeping the map combats relatively fast, instead of using the full Battletech rules, we will be using something called Alpha Strike, which has some mixed opinions amongst the Battletech grognards, but we just don't have time on a Monday night to be doing 6-hour map combats. All right, so next up we got Mark Dino.
Hi, everybody.
Mark,
I'm Mark.
What's your pedigree? Because people in the role-playing community, even if they don't know your name, they know of something you've done.
That's right. So I'm a freelance writer, and I helped develop write on the Shadowrun 5th edition. I also wrote a little bit in 4th edition, but I was a more major, more significant contributor to Shadowrun 5th edition. And so for instance, if you see the flip to the Game Master chapter in your Shadowrun 5th edition rulebook, that my name is on the front of that chapter. So,
and then we have our rounding error, George.
That's a good way of putting it. Hi.
There's a very serious look on his face, though.
Yeah, you're the core of this operation.
George is the heart and soul of this operation.
Oh, I wasn't going to brag, but
He's always good to go for a game. He's always got a simple club-shaped solution for everything. George was also he was a host on the Trapcast tabletop gaming podcast, which is dead and gone, but he did that. He's also always part of our ruckus crew at Gen Con.
Oh, yes. The banner icon of our internal group for this organization is George reclining in the window of the geisha sushi restaurant in downtown Indianapolis.
Mikado.
That's right, Mikado. On some long ago Gen Con afternoon.
Yeah, what was the name of the guy who played George Costanza on Seinfeld?
Jason Alexander.
Jason Alexander, because there's that poster of him like reclining on a bearskin rug and underwear. It's that pose.
It's pretty much that pose.
Yeah, and it's just as shocking to the brain. All right, so here's what we're going to do today. If you're wondering what kind of group we're playing or who the characters are going to be or anything like that, we don't know either. One of the things that we espouse on Fear the Boot is that if you want a game to go well, you've got to set it up for success, and that means doing some pre-game work, or what we call Session Zero work. So stuff you do before game one to make sure you've got a good group of characters and everybody's on the same page about what this game is about. So that's where we're going to be today. I doubt we will get to really doubt we'll actually get to the game itself, and we may even not get to character creation until next time. But trust me, if you've never seen us go through this process, it's informative, and it has helped us immensely with keeping our games alive and going a whole lot better and avoiding a whole lot of the dysfunction we've been plagued with over the years. Alright, so let's start off with the basics here. Battletech, for anyone that doesn't know, is a game that exists in a whole bunch of eras of play where culture and technology change across all of them. And so, in some it's very feudal, and some it feels more like modern military. There are factions that come and go, and technology rises and falls. So we're going to start there. Does anyone have any first thoughts on kind of character they want to play, era they want to play in, type of story they're looking for, just anything to get the discussion rolling on, just to find a place to enter that circle?
Well, as I've said before, I would like to do anything but the time period that we've done repeatedly before, which is the initial wave of the clan invasion. I'm not a particular clan lover or clan hater. I could do it when the clan war is in full speed. I could do it during the tenuous peace after Tukiad. I could do it all the way back in 2750. So I'll throw that out there. I generally lean a little bit towards the older tech, the pre-clan stuff, but that is a soft lean. I've actually never played once the clan technology had more or less fully spread throughout the Innisphere, and Comstar had torn off the mask and started deploying massive amounts of mechs everywhere. So that could be cool too.
Okay, just because you introduced me as being the one who knows the stuff after the clan invasion, the period he's referring to of early clan invasion is anything from 3049 all the way up to 3051, 3052, right after Tukiad. If you're talking about the time when clan technology had actually started diasporing through the inner sphere, that'd be any time after Operation Bird Dog and Bulldog in 3067. Sorry, 3061, excuse me. 3061 was that. 3067 is the beginning of the Jihad period, when Comstar goes nuts and decides to just start tearing ass through the Innisphere. I have character ideas for all across the board, which is when I messaged earlier, it was about trying to get an idea, but it really depends on the time period because there's good stuff all over the place. Just any one of these eras has a whole bunch of neat stuff, which is one of the cool things about Battletech.
I think the three eras that I am probably most comfortable running in terms of I grok what's going on, if we take the early clan invasion off the table, would be the 3025 or the traditional Succession Wars era. They're called the Succession Wars for anyone who's not into Battletech because there was a sort of galaxy-spanning empire. Well, I say galaxy-spanning. It spanned occupied space that imploded without a clear successor. And so there were wars of succession amongst the sort of next tier down on the feudal ladder for who was going to be the next ruler. So that's kind of the 3025 era. I could kick that forward a bit if you want to up the tech and change the politics to the War of 3039 stuff, which was smaller than Succession Wars, but was still a pretty large-scale war, and also saw the early introduction of some technologies that didn't stick around and some that did, because by then they were starting to recover some of the Starleague technology. And I would also be fine, John, with running anything that occurs, excuse me, between the Battle of Tukiad and the start of the Twilight of the Clans. So something, let's say, 3052 to 3055 sort of era.
Of those, the most exciting to me would be the straight-up OG Succession Wars, since that's kind of the original Battletech, and I've never played in it. But I'm good with all that.
Chris, Mark, George, and by the way, Mark has some family stuff to attend to, so there may be points where he's gone from his camera, which anyone listening on the audio won't even notice. But it's my understanding his headset is Bluetooth, so he will still be in on the conversation, though he may get distracted from time to time. But that's okay, because real life comes first. It's just a game, so.
For me, I started BattleTech as a clan player, so that's my personal heresy.
Right click and drop.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm good at any one of the individual levels. I have played BattleTech in every era.
If we did clan era, and I don't say this to entice you to anything, this is just GM commentary. If we did clan era, I would allow you to play someone that they had bonded. So, also, I'll give a little bit of side story here for anyone who's not up on their BattleTech. The clans have a society where if a warrior is defeated in battle, they can be taken as a bondsman, or basically they are something of a servant or an underling to a patron soldier who is rehabilitating them to either re-enter as a combatant or to be released and sent back home.
I believe they based that on Mongol tradition with.
Oh yeah, it's quite real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite real. It has
the Khans are Genghis Khan.
The
clans are Mongols.
A clan meeting is also called a Kurultai, so yeah, it's very Mongolian.
Yeah, and so yeah, the bondsman, it absolutely has a basis in history. In fact, actually, the entire history of BattleTech is pretty much a crash course through Eurasian history, because the Star League was the Roman Empire, or the Greeks' Comstar was the Catholic Church, etc., etc.
I will say this: I would really dig a 3055 scenario, a 3055 campaign around that era. Because one of the best books was Mercenaries Handbook 3055 with that great cover art and just set on Outreach, and that is a uniquely interesting time period and setting, and that would be really cool. That'd be neat. I've actually played the fewest games in that particular time period, mostly because a lot of people want to go either all the way back. So my vote would be for that. Or I would also be interested in going back OG Star League and doing something in the 2750s. That'd be interesting.
I would actually second the 3055. I was eyeballing any year after 52, just because I kind of already have a general idea of the kind of guy I want to be. Post 3052 would give him some slightly more interesting background.
Alright, so it sounds like we're leaning towards a 3052 to 3055, so a post-Tukiyid. So far, that's at least gotten general approval from everyone, and what sounds like some strong nods from two of you guys. Mark, are you still on mic? Okay, Mark may be off mic, so we'll just go ahead then and we'll push forward with that. Okay, so does anyone want to express a veto to a 3052 to 3055 post-Tukiyid but pre-Twilight of the Clans era of play? So
that sounds good to me.
Okay, so the clans have invaded. They have been stalemated at Tukiyid. Their invasion has been stalled, but they have not yet really started getting integrated socially or disintegrated militarily. So
as they are trying to consolidate their holdings, there's quite a few inter-clan problems at this particular point. The Falcon Wolf War takes place during this era. The Red Corsair raids take place during this era. The clans are doing a lot of stuff to try and repudiate the truce so they can resume the attacks on the Inner Sphere.
Yeah, because clans have a generational turnover that's very short, whereas we in normal society think of a generation as taking about 20 to 25 years to occur. They have a generational turnover of about
About
five
10.
years. Oh, so they actually describe a few of the books as short as 5 years. During the debate between Anastasius Vogt and Kerensky, he described it as 3 generations, so in a 15-year truce. So, but whether it's 5 years, 10 years, however you want to describe it, the point being that there are whole generations of warriors in a warrior society that will never have a chance to fight, and that's a huge cultural issue for them.
Yeah, I take a warden view of the time, and the 5-year mark is more of a crusader view, which is against a political division within the clans. But yeah,
Yeah, and for anyone who's getting lost in all these proper nouns and concepts, just stick with us. The ones we don't define, you'll catch by context and further explanation along the way. Alright, so we're going to go with a 3052 to 3055 era of play. I will tell you straight up, my rule for running Battletech in pretty much any game is I will follow canon up to day one of the game, and at that point anything and everything is on table. So that means I can change the canon, and that means you guys can also, by your actions, change the canon. So there are no holy grails, there are no guaranteed events. I will take this campaign, I don't know, maybe keep it where it belongs, or maybe take it way off the rails of where FASA and Catalyst wrote where it went.
that's the most fun.
Oh, it is.
It's absolutely the most fun. The greatest thing is always saying what if and then saying what next.
Yeah, exactly. And I hate being a slave to someone else's untouchable stuff, you know. That, well, you can't do this because that's not how it happens in the books. And it's like, well, I don't really care. If you want to read the books, read the books. This isn't that story. This is the story of these characters. And they may do something that changes things, or I may have a plot that changes things.
Got my vote.
Okay, so next let's talk. What do you guys want to talk? Do you want to talk character concepts? Do you want to talk group concept?
I think group concept is like an overarching idea that everyone else can try and get create characters around, or characters that will fit into that. So that's where I would go next, but you guys actually have more experience in this than I do.
Okay.
I do group first.
All right. Let me give you then, generally speaking, 5 types of groups that we're going to pick from, or we're going to kick around. And these are going to go from, we're going to be kind of in a more or less descending order of loyalties here. So the first is regulars. And what regulars are is regulars are the standing army of one of the powers of the inner sphere. Now we can pick which one later, but within a regular campaign, you will exist within a military order. Now that military order does exist within a feudal concept still, or construct. So there are upward built loyalties, as opposed to a top-down nation state in most cases. But nonetheless, you guys are under somebody's specific flag and are taking direct orders and whatever from one of the powers. And the upside to this for you guys is going to be that you're going to have a lot more resources and a lot more support. The downside is, of course, you as a group will have a little bit less freedom in terms of where you go and what you do. So the second one down from that is irregulars. What irregulars are is they are a unit that works in tandem with one of the powers, even though they themselves aren't technically part of that house. So these are kind of like mercenaries that are on a permanent payroll. You can think of them, I guess the best modern day comparison I could give you would be something like paramilitary corporations or something like that. But these are organizations that effectively fly someone's flag, but don't technically fly someone's flag. This is
most. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Keep on jumping in with like little bit of world tidbits. Those are most often mercenary units with either a long history with a specific house, or mercenaries that have fallen to the company store, where they are simply so far indebted to their patron house that they pretty much can't escape and become another house unit. This was very common back in the 3025 era, and as things continued, a lot of these larger merc units that had gotten into that situation were basically indistinguishable from house units, except having some of their own unique traditions.
Yeah, great example of this would be the Kellhounds, which they made sure, House Steiner in particular, made sure that they would never break that contract by giving them their own planet and looping them into the feudal politics. And there are other examples too, but they were technically mercenaries, but only on paper. Alright, so these next ones, I guess they're fairly, well, in terms of loyalty, the next one down, I would go with partisans. So partisans, these are going to be individuals probably behind clan lines who are or were part of one of the great powers and are now working independently to try and win freedom, or maybe they simply are doing black ops or spec ops or something like that. But these are individuals that are fighting a partisan or resistance war. One step down from them in terms of loyalty is mercenaries. Exactly, fully independent mercs. You guys have your own budget, take your own contracts, and if you get screwed, there is nobody there to bail you out, unless you've made some good friends along the way. And then the lowest here in terms of loyalty and support, but highest in terms of freedom, is outright pirates.
As in R.
As in R, yes, pirates with an R.
With mercs, you can get a little bit of leeway here and there. The big kind of asterisk with mercenary units is, of course, especially in this era that we're discussing, Wolf's Dragoons, because they are, at this point in the story, the largest and most powerful mercenary unit in the Inner Sphere for a variety of reasons, which have become somewhat public knowledge by this point, by around 3052 or 3053. That the Dragoons have revealed their quasi-clan origins to a select number of people, and so rumors abound that they are. But they were very unique when they came into the Inner Sphere as not falling into that trap of company store, and as part of their original mission, working for all of the great houses, because their original intent was to gather intelligence. At this point in the story, though, they reveal their true orders, which was to defend the Inner Sphere from the clans.
Yes. And the Wolf's Dragoons at this point, they have now, because Comstar has become, they no longer a truly independent organization the way they had at least pretended to be for so long. They do not have as strong of a role in terms of bonding mercenaries as they once did.
That's taken over, yeah.
Yeah, there is a location called the Mercenary Star, a planet called Galatea, that does still exist and is still used, but it is considered the second-class place to get your mercenary bonding and to have your contracts held in escrow and things like that to the Wolf's Dragoons' own planet of outreach. But so that if you guys go mercenaries, that will be a choice. Is do you want to operate, really in the mainstream and high fashion, or do you want to be a little bit more rough around the edges and still be operating out of Galatea?
For my own preferences, I would say irregulars sound fun. Never done that before. Going back to what I've done to death as a pivot point to talk about what I would like to do, I've done mercenaries many, many times. Every full-length campaign I've played in has been a mercenary campaign. So going regular or even totally house army sound attractive to me at this point. There is also the straight-up pirate campaign. I didn't sit down thinking that would be on the table, but as long as we weren't just mustache-twirling buttholes and we're actually like, a lance that was so dispossessed by the clan invasion or the fall of Versalhague or something that not only were we cut off from our ordinary feudal lords, but we were cut off from everything, that could be cool too.
Yeah, and with pirates, let me stress here that precisely the type of pirates you are would also be something that you could decide. So precisely, are you evil? Are you more like stand and deliver thieves with honor sort of people? You know, you have your own code of ethics and rules? Or are you maybe not even true pirates? Are you just something like a truly independent army that doesn't really exist within the boundaries of society? You're something like salvage hunters,
or are we chartered?
That you could be even corporate, a corporation's private group or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I said
there is like a little story tidbit in this. During this period, there is a great deal of interest on finding the Exodus Road, which is the path to the clan homeworlds. This is something that begins right after Tukid. Interstellar Expeditions is a corporation in the inner sphere that is across several of the great houses, and they fund many expeditions to both look for abandoned Star League outposts and to see if they can find any trace. It's very dangerous work because it's operating in the clan occupation zones in the periphery, but it also means it pays well.
And another option along those lines, if you wanted to go that sort of thing but play a different spin, is if you were regulars of Comstar. They also operate and have been operating for some time something called the Explorer Corps, which is doing much the same work but under a far more specific flag. But yeah, if you went pirates or something, we'll call them pirates, but these are more just fully independent soldiers of fortune, even more independent than mercenaries. You could be treasure hunters, you could be prospectors, you could be who knows, any number of things. Once again, even some corporations, some of the larger corporations actually have their own standing paramilitaries, so you could be part of one of those. So I guess
I'm up for corporate paramilitary up to and including Comstar. And there's other stuff too, other ideas. Basically all of those pirate proposals other than Black Flag, Shiver Me Timbers, give me your money or I'll shoot you, sound like fun to me.
Yeah, well, and I would say if we go that route, I would any of the pirate routes. There'd certainly be a big question that I would have, but we'll get to that if we pick that. So let's run down the list again. So regulars, irregulars, partisans, mercenaries, and we'll put pirates in quote because they are pirates or fully independent forces. So, does anyone have any yays, nays, anything they want to vote for, or flat veto off the table?
I have never actually played a house unit, so that would be weird.
I have never actually played a house unit either. I would. The more we talk about it, the two things that sound the most fun to me are straight up uniform regular army and pirate, corporate force, explorer, Comstar, whatever. The number 1 and number 5.
Okay, so from John, I got to vote for 1 and 5. Chris, where are you at?
Yeah, I could also give a vote for 1. I always like playing Mercs, but I know that a lot of other people have played that, and I can play Mercs a lot of other times. It's the thing about Mercs and independent formations is it gives the most freedom to the campaign. It can go in the most places and do the most weird things. Although it's always possible to detach a house unit for some weird mission or whatnot, you never know what happens, especially during the clan raiding period. So yeah, it's be interesting.
So is this another 1 and 5?
Think like 1 and 4 with the caveat of 4 being very similar. Like I actually would take a crack at being Wolf's Dragoons. That'd be interesting for me. I haven't actually played. I've always played independent commands and not one of the major, which is like it's a combination of being a house unit and having some freedom as a merc, because you can take the greater merc unit anywhere, but you are still a part of a much larger whole.
Right. I mean, at some point, if your merc band is so big that you've got a patch on your shoulder and you're taking orders from 19 level superiors anyway, you're kind of back to being a regular.
It just provides a more narrative. Well, not more.
Well,
there are plenty of things you can do.
Both of you are correct. Yes, you would be taking. I think in some ways it would feel much like a regulars campaign in that there would be a very big structure of command you'd fit into. I think if nothing else, though, the mercenary, at least, depending on which mercenary corps we went with, could have a diversity of allegiances. And so therefore you could find yourself on multiple sides of conflicts. And I mean, not simultaneously, but I mean over time. And so there would be some travel in there. Some freedom. George, where's your head at?
I was actually over at Partisan just because I was eyeballing a Kurita character. Had an invasion, I think, in 3052. So, like, wherever he was, he might be fighting the clan. That being said, could also do regular and piracy are my number 2 tie. Piracy being the quote-unquote piracy.
Okay, so the 3 we've got is regulars, with one possibility of the regulars being a mercenary group instead of one of the political powers. Partisans, and something fully independent, so pirates et alia. Does anyone want to veto or make a case against any of those 3?
I do not. I think all of those could work. What are you leaning toward, Dan? You're the GM.
I will tell you in a moment, but let me get past these first. At least make sure you guys are on page together.
The completely independent, like by the skin of our teeth, pirates kind of thing out in the middle of nowhere is going to be like playing without a net, and I can see that really appealing to John. But yeah, it's going to be. I think I'll be the most challenging. I can't give a veto to any of them. They all have appeals for me.
John, George, is there anything, and Mark, if you've got your headset back, is there anything that you guys want to veto out of those 3?
No, not at all. In fact, even of the broad 5, there's nothing I would veto. My plus signs go by number 1 and number 5, but they are not do this or I walk.
I don't think anybody's at that point, but
no, I hope not. We're off to a bad start if we've got that already.
Yes. George, what do you think?
I think a regulars game would have one advantage in that we've got the 5 new guys. Like, the group itself is new. From a meta standpoint, a structured game would give us a certain degree of structure. It'll maybe let us give us enough direction that maybe we wouldn't be worrying about what to do, and maybe we would be able to focus a little more on how we act.
The only counterpoint I would make to that is, and this is something I just thought of, an actual house unit is going to place some, not a whole bunch, but more than any of the others, restrictions on character backgrounds and on things that would make sense. Any house military unit, like if before they are going to issue somebody weapons or anything, typically there's some kind of background check that's done, and you have to be a citizen, or there has to be some other program involved, and that might discourage some of the wilder character concepts people might have, whereas a completely independent command tossed together out of a hodgepodge or a large mercenary unit would also be drawing personnel from a wide variety of places, where an actual house unit would be drawing from a still broad but narrower pool.
Let me throw in one, I'll give you my caveat now on the fully independent thing. I have to know that there is something that motivates you guys beyond a single narrow goal. Okay, so if you guys are pirates, for example, I'd want to know that you are not solely motivated by wealth, because otherwise the campaign gets pretty monotone pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Same thing. If you're on like an exploratory thing, I'd have to know that you guys have a diversity of interests out there. That the Exodus Road might be one of your interests. Finding the old Starleague caches might be an interest. There are other things. Maybe even you have some kind of political allegiance, and so you're trying to sabotage competing teams or something. I don't know
absolutely.
what. But I
think the number 5 would provide a greater opportunity for diversity, both individually and in combination, than number 1. Because if we go with number 1, our motivation is set. It's we all grew up, we went to military school, and now we are following orders because this is what we do. Whereas if we're like expeditionary comm guards or something, or the last remnant of the cadet branch of some minor family that had a periphery planet that just got totally cut off and wiped off the structure, we could bring more individual threads to that weave.
Could you combine 1 and 5 and have like out as regulars but got cut off, and now you're pirates to survive, and couple rogue characters that you picked up, almost like a Firefly meets Mechwarrior kind of?
I think we could, but I think the problem with that is it's too easily solvable. All we would need to do would be get the phone back on and call Kurita headquarters, and well, we're back on the team.
All right, 5 would let everyone be what they want, as opposed to. I think if the extremes, I think I pick 5 then, just so that everyone can have their own character and not feel closed to.
So between 1 and 5, George.
Yeah, I'll go 5.
You go 5. Chris, 1 or 5?
Oh. Yeah. All right. I guess I can go 5. Yeah.
John?
It's not. You're not twisting my arm.
5 for sure.
Okay, 5 it is. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with. Do you guys want to? You know what? Let's work through. I got 2 documents here. We're going to work through. The first one's just a handful of quick questions to make sure we understand the tone of the game that we're all agreeing to. And then we'll actually do the group template and figure out what kind of group you guys are. So let's start with this. Are there any particular subjects you want this game to deal with that you would think would really add to your enjoyment? This is what you want out of a Battletech Mechwarrior game. Any particular themes, places, factions, types of NPCs, types of stories? And if the answer is no, the answer is no. But if you've got something, now's the time to tell me.
I like map combats. I don't care if they have Hunchback 2Cs, George. But I think a lot of Battletech GMs are worried that they're going to have too much map. Don't worry about that with me. I love the map. That's my broad piece of insight on this question.
Well, with Alpha Strike, you can get plenty of it.
I've never played Alpha Strike, so this will be
just beware. It really turns up combat lethality. You lose mechs a lot faster in Alpha Strike.
Losing mechs creates plot.
It does. Or if we decide, you know what, depending on what we end up making exactly, we could go back to regular Battletech if we find that the combats tend to be low scale or small in scale and lighter on the weight end, such that the combats would not be 6-hour ordeals. Then we could. Yeah,
we're probably not going to have a full lance of 100-tonners.
Yeah, so I mean, we could always opt to go back to full Battletech from Alpha Strike, so we can play that one by ear. Okay, so anything else? What else do you guys want to? What else do you really want to see out of this campaign?
I actually really liked Chris's idea. I didn't know about the whole finding the
Exodus Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what the
Yeah, I
exit...
like that too.
Okay.
You know, something else I'll put in is I want a little taste of Braddock missing in action. I want to raid behind clan lines, pick up POWs, be a thorn in their side while we're just running around, drive them nuts, especially when they are more worried about raiding each other and trying to find ways back in the inner sphere than trying to hunt us down.
We could be like an Inner Sphere Battletech version of A-Team, where we're like against the clans, but like also
irregular operations like that, and it's very, very dangerous work. But we could also start off. There's one place in particular, Wolcott, in the Draconis Combine. During this period, actually, one of the novels tackles this particular thing. Believe it's DRT. And that takes place during the same era. It because of a quirk of clan bidding, the clans are honor bound to never invade the planet again because it was a condition of them not being able to take it originally.
That sounds good to me, Chris. That sets up Wardens versus whatever the hell the other ones are. Crusaders
Wardens versus Crusaders.
Us versus the farmers that have a bunch of AK-47s. That'll be delightful.
So
a lot of pirate points, a lot of sneaking around, a lot of running from superior clan technology and firepower, trying to steal some of it for ourselves.
So
all kinds of good stuff.
So to explain the two things that were just mentioned to anyone who's not up on the proper nouns, how the clans got formed is when the Star League collapsed. So basically the fall of the Roman Empire. When everything gets divvied up, the main military, not wanting to be drawn into this, simply left to get out of the way of the war. And they went off in unknown space and found new planets to settle. The route they took is called the Exodus Road, and they have kept it carefully concealed from anyone. In fact, even most of them, like by most I mean 99.99% of the clans, do not know their own Exodus Road. They learn it only in pieces so that nobody can learn the whole thing. And
each captain of a warship gets a piece.
And what happens is once they get out to the end of the Exodus Road, that society also collapses, and then out of that comes the clans. And then the clans follow the Exodus Road back and invade the Inner Sphere, but since the Inner Sphere, which is everybody else, doesn't know where the clans come from, they can't counter-invade them. And so at this point in history, there's a real interest in any clue as to where the clans came from. So we've got map combats, there's interest in the Exodus Road, raiding behind lines. The planet of Wolcott, the clans have a very strict bidding system where they lay out, this is the invading force, this is the attacking force, this is what's on the line if one side wins, and the Inner Sphere pulled off an underdog victory there and made as a condition of the engagement that if they won there, the clans would never come back to that planet. And they did win, and so the clans were never able to go back to that planet. So there's a lot of shenanigans going on for Wolcott because it's untouchable.
It's blockaded pretty well, but they cannot land there.
So, anything else? Map combats, Exodus Road, raiding behind the lines, any other things you guys want to see explored or dealt with in this game?
Nope.
Okay. Next question. I don't think this one's going to be as pertinent to Battletech as it was to Skies of Glass because this is a far less brutal setting. But outside of really gratuitous violence, torture, rape, the kinds of things I'm not really interested in dealing with anyway, is there anything you specifically want the game to avoid?
I don't want to play a bad guy or someone working for a bad organization. But other than that, no. I trust your discretion. I have no interest in extremely grisly or salacious gaming content, but I've gamed with you for over a decade now, Dan, and I know you don't either.
Yeah, and it doesn't really fit into the field of Battletech anyway. Like I said, I could have seen it coming up in
There are some places of existential horror that can come up especially when it comes to weapons of mass destruction and desperate people. In this particular setting, it's a trope that comes up a couple of times, and some of those concepts might be interesting to work with. Whereas, so far as you are attempting to stop weapons of mass destruction from being used on a planetary scale, that might be interesting. But yes, for the most part, it don't need to delve too deep into the dark side of human emotion.
Is there anything you want the game to avoid, not for reasons of personal revulsion, but just because you just don't find it interesting? A rule that annoys you, a theme, not a theme, but a type of story or something. Just, let's get anything other than the obvious. If there's...
No, I will express some preliminary willingness to do the full version of the rules, even if it takes us, breaking up sessions and whatnot. But we can try the quick version too. I've never played it.
And kids on the camera.
Yeah, we have a visitor on the camera, so... Okay, so I will put simply nothing for this.
I'll say,
Oh. Go ahead.
No, I like what John brought up. Like high lethality. Turn that down, just... Or have a measure. I do want our characters to have consequences. And what I would want to avoid is a problem I've encountered in some of my games where it's not character death, it's character in that they become mechless and become essentially ineffective in entire session of a 6-session game. I'm not saying to throw our mech in front of an Atlas and try and punch it in the face and then, and there does need to say is, even just an aerospace, some kind of what's the word? John, what am I looking for here? I don't want to save or suck like that. The BattleTech version of that.
So is basically what you're looking for is you want a game that has meaningful consequences without being benched or punished.
I'll take death over and re-roll over.
Death over dispossession. Yeah. It's not just a slogan anymore. No, I get what you're saying, though. It's better to just die and come back with George 2 than to be the guy who has to write a half track now because someone rolled a critical on your ammo section.
Okay.
Yes.
Rock vehicles. I will rock your boxers off with vehicles.
Oh, yeah, no, I love vehicles, too. I think I had a character wind up getting his crap blown up all the way down to flying a helicopter for a while. But I understand what George is saying. And Dan, as always, I do not mind. I want all the rules against me to be done on the table, and if I blow up, I blow up.
Well, that is my next one down, is PC death. Yes, no.
Yes.
Yes for some people, no for others.
If it happens, it happens. You try your best to make sure it doesn't happen.
Agreed.
Life
if the
sucks.
rules are fair and on the open, and it happens, then that's the risk.
Mark, PC death, yes or no?
Conditionally?
What's the condition?
I don't enjoy it if it is just a series of really poor luck and then the character dies in an incredibly unexpected or undramatic way. That sort of thing.
That's fair. Battletech, and Chris, you can help me out here because you know the Time of War rules better than I do. Did Time of War keep Edge?
Oh yeah, Edge is still in there.
Outstanding. Okay, so but yeah, Mark, there is a concept in BattleTech that is it works somewhat akin to the karma system that has traditionally been around Shadowrun, where you will get a set number of rerolls per game to help you, well, edge some of that away from happening. But yeah, I I'm of the same mind that there's a big difference, let's use a D&D example here, between your character dying in a meaningful way and your character just happening to fall down because 3 goblins got lucky hits. So I will put PC death here, and I'll put yes with some player reservations. And actually, the only campaign recently in Battletech where I had a player character die, I asked them.
That was Wayne.
It was Wayne. I actually asked Wayne, I said, are you okay with this?
Wayne,
do you want me to find some excuse to not kill you? There's going to be consequences here. So otherwise, what's the point? But, okay.
Chris, does the edge function like Shadowrun's edge?
It is not identical to Shadowrun's edge. These concepts are similar, but not the same.
The way edge works in the Mechwarrior system is you are allowed to just either flat re-roll a die roll, or if it's a roll against you, you may ask me to re-roll a die roll.
That's the way it works in the Battletech tabletop. In Time of War, it is slightly different, but I think that's best covered. Like we can, if people are getting used to the system and whatnot, that can be covered in depth. Probably at another time. Probably when we get closer to actually playing, because that's like more mechanics.
Okay, is there anything that I want from you guys? The main thing that I need from you guys is active participation. Because there are 4 players, and there's going to be some interruptions, certainly for Mark, and I know at times George has Miranda invasions and whatnot. I know stuff's going to come up. The main thing I need from you guys is to... I'll give you stuff to do. I just need you guys to not sit there and stare at me. I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think we've already talked about this. Is kind of redundant, so I'm putting an A next to that one. Okay, last question on that one before we actually start designing the group. So this is all the metagame stuff. We'll actually get to the game stuff next. Is there anything you guys want from each other? Is there any requests you have for your other players that you want them to do something or not do something?
I would say general harmony within the PC organization is better than not 99% of the time, but I think most people agree.
John, I am going to ask you if you want to have a slight love-hate relationship with... Do you still want to? Do you want to do?
Oh, absolutely. We can mold Shiro Hasagawa and Antonio Antonelli as they developed as penguins when we played Stellaris.
Okay.
So you love and hate the penguins as you love and hate yourselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, I think they both love themselves just fine. It's just the other guy that is an inscrutable a-hole.
Yeah. Shit he pulls.
Okay. Let's talk actual.
I agree. So I'll add something here.
Oh, go ahead.
General harmony. Yeah, general harmony within the group is good. I think as we design the group, finding reasons to be together, that bonding agent will be good. Okay. But of course, we can design interpersonal conflict because that just makes things interesting. And then the general improv rule of the yes and. Right, so when players throw out, little interactions and plot hooks and things like that, it works best to just pick up on them and roll with it, right? So I've always enjoyed my sessions best where if I say throw out something that we haven't pre-planned, like John's character, I say to John's character something like, "Oh yeah, this is exactly like that time when we, met those girls on that last planet and it all went wrong. Do you remember that one? Or remember when you totally flubbed that other thing?" To have a character for you to pick up on that and then just roll with it rather than kind of like, no, my character wouldn't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And I've found that as well as a game master, provided it's not. Chad in particular takes a lot of leeway with just kind of throwing out random stuff like, I don't know, the group will be in a bar and he'll be like, since the bartender and I go way back or something like that, and I'm okay with that as long as it's not plot altering.
Oh yeah, I love that stuff.
There is one other thing I'm going to want from you guys, and I went back and added this to the little thing I'm taking notes on, which is I will want each of you to give me 2 or 3 plot hooks that I can opt to work with to personalize the game. So this can be anything you come up with. So this can be there's a particular thing you're looking for, there's an image you're trying to live up to, there's someone you're trying to get revenge against, there's a debt you owe. I don't care what it is, but give me something that I can use in the plot. You have a rival. I don't know, maybe you have a friend out there. Whatever it is, I don't care. But just something that I can use as a plot element to personalize what's going on to your individual characters.
Do you want more than 3? Because I can do a lot more.
Oh, you give me 25 of them. I may only use 2 or 3, but I won't stop you from giving me loads of them. In fact, Chris, I have a particular proposal for your character that we'll come back to here in a moment. Okay, so does the Game Master need our... We're now on to the actual game contents. So, does the Game Master need our group to be something particular for his or her plot? No. We've already covered that. In brief, what will our group be when the game starts? Okay, so now we get down to it. What exactly are you? Who exactly do you work for, if anyone? At the moment the game starts. I mean, this can be in flux.
So, we talked about being a pirate, quote-unquote, band, which is basically just a dirty way of saying an independent mercenary unit, because that's really what they are, but they're not registered or bonded with the MRBC or Outreach, or the old Mercenary Review Board. So basically it's just a collection of personnel and equipment with some loose military-esque structure, with trying to accomplish specific goals. Does that pretty sum up for everybody?
Yes. Do you have any preference on who's footing your bill? What's the bear's? We have a bear now. What's the bear's name?
Brownie, I believe, is the bear's name.
You don't know? You should. For those of you not watching a video feed, Mark's daughter is having a bear interact with us, stuffed bear. So we have Brownie now.
For groups that might be footing the bill, it could be anybody from Comstar to House Karita to anybody who's actually being invaded by the clans. At this point, there is also a sliver of the Free Rasselhague Republic left, and they love anything that gives the clans a hard time. And so they might also be occasionally bankrolling us, and they would not put it past them to hire whoever they could get, as long as they point them at the clans and say, go cause a ruckus.
You know, something that'd be kind of fun, I think I would have fun with, if you guys don't object. Do you mind if you're, while you're certainly given dispensation to do what you're doing by your fellow forces doing similar things, so you have a positive working relationship with House Kurita, with Comstar, etc., that you are directly bankrolled by, shall we say, a philanthropist, basically somebody who has an axe to grind, and
there are many of them. Chandrasekhar Kurita, among others, is a very wealthy person in the Draconis Combine who does all kinds of this stuff throughout the Battletech timeline.
Oh, I'll be making my own. I'm just asking if in principle...
I was providing an example that exists in the universe.
And I would not use this character to micromanage you guys, but...
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
I just like to put...
Sorry.
I just think it'd be fun to put a personal face to it. That it's not an organization, it's a who.
Oh yeah, like a Jarl from the Free Rasselhague Republic. That'd be great.
Yeah,
I like an FRR. Like, they knocked me off my planet, but I still have billions of C-bills in electronic storage and
can they be
in a circuit. So like the clans couldn't take that with their mix, or Comstar. And we've tossed about more or less having the check show up out of nowhere from your local AT&T station / cathedral, and that sounds fun too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm all about Resolhag, especially if we're like disbarred. If for some reason we've run afoul of the bonding commission, and we got a call one day from a guy who found out and said, "Hey, I don't care that you don't have your license anymore. If you still have guns and are willing to jump behind clan lines, I have money."
That's going to be an interesting question we're going to want to come back to here just a little bit down. Are you guys actually, do you have black marks on your record, or have you just been hired off the books? So obviously there's going to be a distinction there. We'll come back to that.
I would actually... Okay.
Oh, no, go ahead. If you've got thoughts, go ahead.
I have one thing on it that it might be a little mix of this and that. This unit might have been put together by whoever the wealthy patron was, and so it is a combination of, there might be a couple of legitimate guys who have done shady things in their past, and maybe they're seeking atonement or something, or that could be a plot hook or a thread, but perhaps not everybody in the unit is. And it's one of those kind of ideas like the French Foreign Legion. All kinds of people come, but you're a different person now that you're in the Legion.
So how did your characters first meet? Were you a unit of some kind before this, or were you basically all hired together and assembled one by one by this guy's, I don't know, whoever it is he would have, headhunting? Oh, now I've gone from a girl and her bear to a man and his cat.
Kitty!
That is a good question.
That one could also be a bit of both. There could be some people, there could be 2 or 3 of us who were in one unit or another, or there could be, it could be all assembled. I have a background in mind for my character as a mercenary from a unit that got partially destroyed, and so somewhat scattered. And there would be welcome for some other people to have been in that mercenary unit with me. So that's also possible. But that would allow for also wild variances in characters from different backgrounds or whatnot to still be assembled.
I like the idea of having been a Free Resolhag Republic regular who was given a lawful order to surrender and instead submerged and drove off to Argentina. So, like, no legal status whatsoever.
Well, you'd have a great opportunity to do that because FRR's capital world, Resolhag itself,
was captured by the Ghost Bears.
No, it was captured, but that was
the wolves.
It was captured by Clan Wolf without a shot being fired. The governor of the planet, or the leader, was basically in one of Stackpole's Mary Sue moments.
That was Radstadt.
Well, that was Rodstadt. Okay, so that wasn't Resolhag. Okay, so Rodstadt, which was one of their major worlds, they knew it was going to be a nightmare to take, and so they Clan Wolf bid only one person and sent good old Phelan Kell down to convince them to basically surrender the planet peaceably for the sake of the people living there, and blah blah blah. And I could see that really pissing you off.
Yeah. I don't know if my whole unit walked, or maybe just a couple of them.
Or maybe even somebody higher up who was not pleased about this decision was like, well, if we can't draw the blood here, let's draw it elsewhere.
Yeah.
Obviously,
we no longer exist as a unit of the FLR, but our mechs are still here.
I'm looking at the plot for Kurita. Their home planet is Luthien, which was invaded in 3052. I'm not seeing any on how successful it was.
It failed.
It failed.
It failed.
It failed on the outskirts of the Imperial City in a valley, in a giant, one of the biggest pitched battles in the Battletech universe.
Yeah,
I'm seeing where they first landed, though, was Nagasaki Crane District. I think. Here.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact places, but I can tell you that House Kurito declined, basically in the interest of saving face, they declined help from the Federated Commonwealth, and the Federated Commonwealth then contracted on their behalf several mercenary companies that backed them up, and House Kurita did successfully defend their capital world.
Okay. Say, well, it was still a war on the planet, and it probably wasn't pretty.
No, it wasn't.
If you don't need to pick the capital world, and you still want to be a Kuritan of Kuritan origin, there were many other worlds taken by the Smoke Jaguars and Nova Cats during the initial clan invasion, and that could have taken place on any one of a number of them.
That might be better. Yeah. So pick a planet that was taken over, and that meant there, because my planet was kind of let go, but the Imperial was saved.
You could do that, because there were strategic retreats to reinforce more important worlds, trading planets for time. And so that could have happened to one of the planets further out towards the periphery very easily.
Yeah, I mean, is there another reason besides resentment that I would essentially not relocate? Because the way I'm going to build this guy is he's going to be a little older, not like ancient, but he's going to be like 40. He's going to have like a wife and child that's alive and well. They didn't die tragically. They're somewhere. But he's busy doing shit with these pirates, and he lost his homeworld. The Imperial City repelled. So, or direction I would take, just some. That's where I'm kind of hitting my roadblock. Like, why would that become a pirate?
Because it's a chance to strike back at the clans immediately.
Yeah,
Instead of having to wait, you can go right now.
Also keep in mind that it's it's an honor-bound society. You may be doing this simply because you were told to do it. That they picked you out for whatever reason and said, we want you to do this. I guess think of it kind of as, if you can't be the samurai, be the shinobi.
Yeah. Or even the Ronin. I like the sound of that. And if you want to think up a side, like, a group that, like, because the Kurita can't officially declare, like, retaliation, I guess, or something, because there's some kind of truce.
Oh, they can.
Yeah, they can attack the clans all they want.
Yeah.
All right, but but if they did so in a concentrated group effort, maybe that would upset something.
Well, attacking en masse, of course, requires risking military forces en masse. It also requires potentially degarrisoning some place to move an army. So,
versus sending a handful of people out to piss around, cause trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
They're spoiling attacks.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so, Mark, what are your early thoughts on the character concept?
I don't really have... Well, no, I did have a couple potential ideas in mind of characters that would interest me. I guess I kind of... Because the game is very vehicle-centric, almost like your mech defines your playstyle and almost your kind of personality, the relationship between the Mechwarrior and the mech, right? Is that accurate?
It could. It depends on where you...
have to.
Yeah, because in many cases, those mechs were passed down generationally.
Yep.
And so this is not something that you... It may not. Now, you may have... It could have been given to you as a gift. It could have been purchased out of pocket. It's rare, but it happens. It's also possible this has been in your family for a very long time, and the only reason you have it is because Daddy got too old or too dead to pilot it anymore.
Okay, so just coming from this, in general, I found the faster, more maneuverable mechs more interesting to me from a play style. So I thought of one particular kind of character was one who acts as like in the advanced scout or the spotter mech for the lance. Like, there's
gotta be able to do recon.
There was a mech that has like an electronic warfare suite.
Raven.
Yep, that one.
Yeah, so the Raven has it. Some of the Oscout variants have it.
Yep. Raven was what I was thinking of.
Also, make sure you pack tag because I love artillery.
Yep, that's what I used it for, is a spotter for artillery. So, but from a more well-rounded kind of character idea, I thought was actually somebody who, Dan, you mentioned like a mech that was inherited down the line. So, if I was some sort of, I was almost thinking someone who was kind of far down in the line of importance, whatever, like the third or the fourth or the fifth son of a household who's kind of gotten the short end of the stick, and he's now inherited kind of the family legacy mech, which is has a lot of idiosyncrasies to it, right? And to have a character who he's had to maintain it almost by hand himself a lot, because he hasn't been able to afford someone else to. So he's kind of stuck with his lot in life now, having working with some substandard equipment. And I just had this interesting image, of like a mech that doesn't start right unless you kick it in this spot just properly, and then okay, now it goes. But may not look pretty,
but I know that with the fiction.
And so you basically want to drive the Millennium Falcon.
Kind of, in mech form. It's like, the mech may not look pretty, but I know it like the back of my hand.
She's got it where it counts.
Yeah, she's got it where it counts, kind of a thing.
Okay. That we can certainly work with that. I do have one request, because right now we've got George's Curitan, Chris is ex-Merc, John is Rasalhague. I would love to at least have two of you linked together. Mark, in terms of background, would you be willing to have your character have been in the same unit or same organization as one of those three?
Yep, no problems there.
Do you have any preference between them? For your Rasalhague Republic, if you've played... Did you play Skyrim?
Nope.
Oh, think kind of High Nordic.
You know what Norway is?
Yeah. Yes. Think High Nordic culture. Non-cartoonish Vikings sort of thing.
Okay, yeah.
Chris is Merc. I don't know if you've actually picked the mercenary company or if it's going to be a personal creation mercenary.
I would push towards the personal creation that I messaged you about for this particular concept. I wasn't sure if that would pan out, but if you would allow it, I would go for that. But I talked to you about that already.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And then George then is Curitan. Think feudal Japan.
Right. Although I would also point out, given that George's character is older, that could be his origin story or whatnot, and he could have ended up in my mercenary company, the one that I came from, and then just has tagged along or has also survived that. So he is a long-term survivor of several attempts to get back at the clans, and because
another thing to consider.
Oh, go ahead.
Another thing to consider is that the entire nation of any given intersphere population isn't all ethnically the same as the ruling house. So the Curitans have an Imperial Japanese family. The Rasalhague's government is Norwegian, but that doesn't mean everyone is that. You could be a Japanese person from a Rasalhague territory or whatever.
There are some broad strokes about where different ethnicities of the Earth colonized during the expansion of the Terran hegemony. But yes, roughly speaking, there is a little bit of everybody everywhere. Although there's flavor to some of the great houses, just because of the regions of space that various nations tended to colonize during expansion.
Okay, so John, give me the quick recap. You're FRR ex-military?
That's right. So the FRR of the main inner sphere powers, was the smallest one to begin with on the eve of the clan invasion, and by the end of it, they were devastated. The line as it stopped when the main clan push sputtered out, or was rather stopped by truce, took almost all of the FRR's territory.
All but 7 planets.
Yeah, so what I'm going with is somebody whose planet surrendered behind him while he wasn't there, and who did not comply with his order to turn around and turn in his military assets, who just buzzed off and found someone who's going to cut him a check and pay for the gas and the new machine parts to keep fighting against the clan invasion.
John, actually, in order for you to abscond like that, you're going to need people helping you. So I think what I may do is, unless anyone objects, is keep running with that, and your guys' base infrastructure are part of his defection.
Oh yeah, no, I had no intention of being, this was just me flapping my wings.
Yeah, because you can't exactly put it.
Someone had a drop ship, someone had enough money for a jump ship, and the jump ship captain knew him. All this was there together.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if even maybe the way I go with this is there was something like a scout class jump ship with a small drop ship on it and your unit, and all of them were like, screw this, we're not giving up this easily. And some people stayed, some people left. There was divisions and schisms, but what was left was enough to sort of abscond off on their own.
Just go Mark, you could have been anywhere in that organization.
Yeah,
regardless of your ethnicity.
I like the FRR. So, yeah, what I'm thinking with this character is I like the idea that he's like third or fourth in line of a minor noble or rich house or whatever in a small household out on the periphery. So he's stuck with his lot in life and is trying to make the best of it. I don't actually see him as a particularly disciplined person. Like, military life wouldn't have suited him super well, but he certainly could have done it because he was expected to or supposed to. He just didn't have another choice. So when the opportunity to cut and run, when it all fell apart, he wouldn't have had a problem with. So maybe your character, my character, could have struck up a friendship when we were serving together, and when this opportunity came up, yeah, we both cut and run, cut our losses, and head off together.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, there may have been a fight. Maybe not necessarily lethal, may not have necessarily scorched earth, but I'm sure somebody on our dropship wanted to comply with the order and go back home, and you and I may have had our backs together at the walls at some point and pulled through for each other.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, I can see my character definitely saying, like, what have I got to go home to?
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so the two of you served together in the FRR and were part of the same leaving. And then Chris and George, it sounds like you guys are going to simply have been hired in by whoever this benefactor is as part of the effort to refill out the ranks that were either lost in battle or just didn't join the absconding. If that works for you guys.
Yeah, if I went with the honor-bound route, there might have been a connection between the wealthy guy and someone in the Combine, such that we see you're looking for... they might have an arrangement. That's one idea.
It's possible, but that'd be kind of weird. The Rasselhagians did not have a great deal of love for the Koreans.
Well, whoever the benefactor may not be Razzlehag.
True.
Yeah, I'm thinking the benefactor's probably going to be somebody fairly independent. Major events shared in the past. Now, some of that's character levels or anything, because like John and Mark, you two are going to have some shared personal events. Is there anything group level, or do you want this game to start when you guys have already done a couple of these runs, Or do you want this game to start when, like, you're on your first run? I always find that there's a bit of awkwardness to the you guys are literally meeting for the first time in a tavern kind of thing.
No, let's definitely not do meeting in the first time in a tavern. I would say let's do it Star Wars style and start with the retro rockets firing when we're about to land on mission number 4 or something like that.
Okay, so you've done a couple of these outings. We don't need to define them yet. We can define them mid-game, but there have been... This is not your first run. And maybe up to this point... Go ahead.
We could sketch out at least one galvanizing encounter with maybe some rough points that we can all refer back to, and that can serve as a jumping off point for some of those in-character discussions that I've mentioned before. Those remember when points.
I totally 100% support that. And also, I think something else we could do with this is maybe these were something to the effect of dry runs or C tests on the group. So basically, give you guys smaller, simpler raids or operations before they give you a big one of, okay, this is where you're really going off radar.
And even if we want to, we could each of us write like a 2-paragraph long squib short story about an operation that we've done already. Just something small time. If we're going to assume that the curtain doesn't rise on all of us meeting for the first time and going out on our first trip.
Okay, on a personal level, what keeps the characters together? Obviously shared hate of the clans or shared dislike, whatever word you want to use there, of the clans is one thing. Is there anything else that keeps you guys together? Are you all equally curious about what's out there? Equally adventurous? Is there... I know, of course, Mark and John's character know each other.
Yeah, I would say Mark's character and my character have pre-existing military bonds that have continued on into our current role. George, we have a basis for a love-hate relationship because you're Creed and I'm the Rasalhague.
Yeah.
But we definitely should make it deeper than that. We
John, I
actually
have an angle that you guys might know my character as well. Rasalhague did not really use mercenaries much, but their corporations did. It is entirely possible that a company from the mercenary unit I came from was under contract to guard something or do something on one of the worlds that got hit. The survivors ended up getting picked up by a military dropship, like perhaps the one you guys were on that had extra space because you'd also taken losses. And as you're retreating and eventually get the word to surrender, the mercenaries, a couple of us just happen to be along as well. So
yeah, I like that a lot, especially because the Rasalhague government can't tell you where to park your dropship. So if we want to walk and go with you, that could be a part of the defection that occurred in the aftermath of the surrender.
But yeah, it's the company level unit got smashed pretty hard by one of the clans, and the survivors ended up getting collecting up with Rasalhague survivors from house unit. And because when everyone's trying to get off of the planet, they're not stopping to wonder who's... As long as you're an Intersphere unit, you're allowed to go.
Yeah, in the moment of clan encirclement, the precise nature of your enlistment terms is no longer quite that important. Although if you watch Dunkirk, it actually was. All the French soldiers obviously hated the British soldiers because they got to leave.
Let's see. Is there enough... I don't think this is going to be an issue, but I'm just going to ask, is there enough moral agreement among the characters to keep them from abhorring each other? It doesn't sound like a problem.
Yeah, I don't.
I've not heard anyone say anything that I'm like, wow, this guy's going to be the asshole. Is there any potential conflict between character personalities, goals, or ethics that could become so great the plot will fizzle out or players will be excluded? I see one, and only one, which is George. So far, you are the only person not connected by history to the rest of them. And especially given the fact that you're a Curtin, which has a negative history with both Rasalhague and mercenaries.
Yes.
We need to do something to get you in here. Some kind of connection to...
There is a way, and that is if... This is drawing again from the fiction, but especially if the benefactor could be, if it's Cretan descent or whatnot, or could be an eccentric of some other place, but quite often will have like someone sent along to look after their interests. That could be an NPC, or we could say it's George. I'm reaching here for trying to get him an in, but he could be somebody who comes along as a condition of the support.
I could have flown right to... The idea that strikes me just now is instead of me being an honor-bound pirate, everyone else seems to have some black in their ledger. I could join that theme. Feeling the loss of my homeworld on the outskirts of the Combine. There's the stalemate with the clans, not giving enough action, so I am patiently just kind of... I could be some kind of contact for the. I might have just happened to know a guy who was the benefactor, like this aristocratic whoever. Maybe I flew right for him. Like, said goodbye to the wife, said goodbye to the kid, and just flew right there.
Okay.
As soon as, like, the stalemate kind of shows signs of progressing, and I'm just, like, watching my homeworld while everyone's...
Yeah, I mean, you could be a Bushido psycho who stayed in Polulu until 1962. I mean, that is definitely a potential source of inspiration for why you're doing what you're doing.
The only thing I'm wondering is it a good fit for the group template? Is that, I mean, because this guy is kind of nuts. Do we keep him around because he's useful and he amuses us, or?
I think
right.
we would need some sort of stronger bonding agent than just our employer told us we have to take him, or he's watching, or he's sent here to watch us. It could have been on one of our early encounters. Maybe you came in unexpectedly and did something particularly impressive to earn our trust and respect.
Yeah. Maybe the battle that we were committed to happened to be within radar range of the cave you had sworn to die in fighting. And when the fight started, you just came out and like started shooting clan mechs and didn't know who we were, and we didn't know who you were. But it was a good way to start the relationship. Yeah.
Sure, we were fighting on some world that's supposed to be deserted, or that we assume that the Cretans gave up on, and we got into a rough spot, and then suddenly behind our enemies, this random mech with Karita markings suddenly started blasting people in the rear armor.
Yeah. Like random lone mech samurai type dude. Yep. Crazy.
Yeah, you may have sallied forth thinking, okay, great, this is when I die, this is my chance. And then we won. And it was like, oh.
Now what?
And then you opportunity to hail my comm and be like, we're getting out of here, and then I'm kind of like, no, I'm going to defend my stupid ice cave. And then you guys kind of are like, no, that's dumb, come with us. Because can do a lot more for everyone. Like, you know.
Appeal to your sense of duty.
That's right. Also, we could have lost our fourth in that combat and been like, hey, dude, we need to fill out the lance.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it'd also be interesting if you guys, or I can do it if you want, but I think more so if you guys did it, to the three of you, Mark, Chris, and John, designed that fourth person to give you a particular person to miss and give them traits that you miss. So this is not just generic friend who has the name but never appears on screen. But this is somebody that you can actually point to facts about.
The only other survivor from my mercenary company.
I was just going to say that, Christopher. This could have been like what Mark and I are to one another. This person could have been to you, and we lost him or her.
No, yeah. So I definitely went rogue. That's how we're gonna play it. Like, I just got in a ship, landed on a planet with my mech, and just went nuts.
Okay.
Just as long as you're not too nuts now, because...
Oh, no, he's...
dangerous.
In some ways, he's the most sane of all of you.
Hey!
It's... perspective.
George, how would you feel, and I'm just thinking about this, as a way I could also kind of draw this all together, that the benefactor is also your mentor. He's maybe not your actual father, but he's been a father figure to you for like a long time. And like he maybe like even sponsored you into the academy. You go off, get trapped in your cave on some Pacific island or whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
Come out with these guys, and when he finds out what's going on, he then gets involved. But he's, I guess he's kind of, I don't want to oversimplify this or stereotype, but he's kind of like your Splinter. He doesn't necessarily do anything with you guys because he's just getting too up there in years. But he wholly believes in it, and he's kind of your sanity check. He's the guy that kind of reels you in a bit.
Okay, yeah, no, because we almost do have a Ninja Turtle theme, because there's the Leonardo and Raphael dynamic, and then you can have a Splinter dynamic being like, you shouldn't fight.
That'd also be great. So, next, you know what? This is also always going. This is going to be an amusing one. Chris, do you know the rules well enough off the top of your head? Because I'll admit I did not get a Time of War studied up on prior to this. Do you feel you're comfortable enough with the rules to do character creation now, or would you rather come back and do that next time?
I could do character creation, but it is relatively involved because of the life pass system.
Okay, then I tell you what, let's hold that off then until next time. And we'll come back and do it then because I don't want to. It's already almost 10 o'clock here, so I don't want to keep this running all night. So now that we've gotten our technical hurdles worked out and some basic intro stuff done, then we've got everything we need. So next time we can come back and do character creation, and then also I can start describing for you the assets that your group has. One thing I'll ask you guys now, and you can tell me you want to defer this to character creation or decide it now, because I think now would be a great time over the next 2 weeks before we meet again for you guys to start working on those plot hooks, both individually and the things that you share as a group. And one of the things that kind of matters, because it has to come out of this, is what the ranks are. If you're within a lance, I'd like one of you to be the officer, one to be the XO, and 2 of you to be the mech warriors. Do you guys
Can I bring a penguin from my ice cave?
Sure. It's dead. It's been dead for years.
Hey.
You've taxidermied it into a puppet.
Okay.
It's the only friend he has. Anyone raising their hands?
Anyone wanting command?
I don't care. I can take it or leave it. I think I had it last time.
All right, here's what we're going to do. All 4 of you roll 2d6. For anyone who doesn't know, do you guys all know if it's /roll space 2d6 on the...
Yep.
So everybody roll 2d6. The top down from numbers. This is going to be the order of command.
I would say that anybody, just given the character concepts, John, me, or Mark should be the commander. George probably is not, given the character and the way we described that.
Let me see the roll, because I would still consider giving him an exo slot. So let me see the roll. So John's got a 10, Chris has got a 6, Mark's got a 6, George has a 5. Chris and Mark, can I get you guys to roll again to tiebreak? Okay, so John, you are the officer. We're going to make you an LT.
Cool.
Mark, if you feel comfortable doing it, you are going to be his XO.
That seems to make sense.
And then Chris and George, whatever your prior ranks were, you are now... I'll pick the exact ranks later, but you two will be of a functionally equal rank. And then also you will have other... I am going to give you additional support assets. So I'm probably, for example, going to give you a helicopter or two, a salvage vehicle, probably some infantry. So you are going to have other assets under the broad umbrella of command. So none of you will end up being the total bottom of the totem pole, so don't worry about that.
Because the stereotypes kind of work well, John, if your character is more of the slightly more to the stereotypical commander, kind of the hard ass, I definitely see my guy the more personable XO kind of a thing, the likable one.
Yeah, I can roll with that. My dude definitely had a regimented upbringing. You know, went to officer school, did it all by the numbers. Probably came from nobility, as most people who have mechs do, and was sufficiently motivated enough on a personal level to throw out the order of surrender and fly off to keep fighting. So that worked for me.
Let's do one more thing we can do while we got the time here. I'm not guaranteeing this because I want to look over some unit composition stuff before I make a final call. But let's do one little exercise here, so I'll at least give you guys a pick that I'll try to go for, just for fun. Two things. What mech and how did you get it?
Point of order. George is leading towards that Hunchback 2C. That is a Clan Tech design.
He does not have a Hunchback.
George
does not have a Hunchback 2C.
All right.
The Hunchback 2C is a meme. It's not even...
Yeah, it's a running inside joke.
He's been dumping Hunchback 2C minis into my D&D games for 10 years.
Can I have a Hunchback 2C as George's? Can I have a Waymick? It's his... So no, George does not have a Hunchback 2C.
Fair enough. Being as how much we're going to be rating the clans, though, it is entirely possible we may end up with clan equipment itself.
Oh, right, and I'm not... That's in-game stuff. Hey, I'm not going to take away anything you guys earn from you. If George gets his hands on a Hunchback 2C, he has a Hunchback 2C now.
This has become a meta goal for the campaign. He has got to get one at this point.
My meta goal as a game master will be to give him a Hunchback 2C and take it away from him in record time.
You don't have to take it away. I will lose it.
Dan, what's the menu? What kind of list are we going after?
Let's start with anything book standard or book variant. It's probably going to be anything in terms of technical manual, 3050 and back. You might have a 3055 mech, excuse me, but that's definitely going to be a new handout.
Is there anywhere like online where the 3050 mechs are listed?
Yeah, actually, the thing that I linked, the master unit list.
Yeah, you can sort by year of introduction. Oh man, there's a lot of good choices.
Yeah, I put that up in. Well, I'm just kidding. We don't have to pick this now. I'm just curious. Does anyone have? I really, really want to have my blank, whatever blank is.
Nah. I'm probably going to be going on the heavy end since I'm the LT, but within that, I don't have any strong preferences.
I was thinking something quicker.
I would recommend going generally towards the more mobile end because you are not going to win a punching match with a clan mech.
To fit my character design, I just need something ancient. an old and venerable design.
Oh, there's no shortage of those.
Something Star League. Something fast and Star
Honestly,
League.
the first thing that came to my mind was Phoenix Hawk.
Phoenix Hawk would work if you want another venerable design. It was originally retired, but I think they brought it back. They being the companies that make BattleTech, not the in-game history, to fill in some holes in the mech rosters during the legal fights with Harmony Gold, is the Hussar.
The only problem with the Hussar is it has tissue paper for armor. We're talking 1 or 2 points in several of the locations.
Does it really? I remember the Cicada being that bad, the PPC Cicada, but I thought the Hussar was a little bit better off.
The 3025 version is a little better because they had to downgrade the laser from an ER large to a standard large laser, so that actually allowed them to up armor it slightly. But especially the Star League version with the ER large laser is 1 or 2 points of armor on the arms and torsos.
What about two other designs I was thinking about if you want something old? Is what about, did they do revisions on the Mongoose and what was the Star League headhunting mech?
Exterminator.
Was that the one with the 4 meds and the LRM-10?
Yes.
So that was actually designed.
That was actually a 65-ton mech, but it's a 65-ton mech that can move 6'9" with the XL version.
Yeah, it was designed to chase down larger mechs.
Yeah, it was intended specifically to attack command mechs. Because the Royal version had the null system and the chameleon system.
Okay, well, sounds like nobody's got a strong, damn, I really need my Marauder or whatever, so we will punt on this, and this is something you guys can work on next time. So what we'll do is we will pick up the next episode of this in 2 weeks. If you want to catch the Twitch stream, it'll be around, give us some time for technical issues, so maybe 7:30 Central on Monday, what will that be, the 25th, I think? And between now and then, you guys are going to get me some plot hooks individually, some shared background, and we will come in next time ready to actually put pen to paper, get these characters made, and we'll see where we go from there. And hey, be shopping.
Before you wrap up, we did have a couple of people in the chat, and I want to give some shout outs.
Please do.
And Spammy V, talking about you guys are doing Rasselhag and don't lose immediately. Talking about, a lot of real Mary Sue stuff there. Don't know what that was talking about.
That's probably my dig at Phelan.
That's 100% bondsman to anti-clan surgeons. Can't even pull them away. Comes to mind. Oh, yeah. Ragnar Magnuson, Spammy V is who you're referring to. Church Trinblade says, "Hey, Raven!" So he's talking about that. Can confirm a time of war is involved. Yep, certainly can. And also a shout-out for Victor. The 80-ton assault mech with either AC-20 or Gauss rifle. But that's also 464 on the Victor's move profile. So that's on the heavy end and relatively slow.
John, you totally want a Charger.
I totally do not want a Charger.
585, 512.
I would take a Victor, I would take a Zeus, I would take a Black Knight, I would take a Marauder, I would take a Flashman. If we're gonna run in that 75-ton range.
Flashman's a good mech.
Actually, I was gonna say Flashman.
Great mech.
It's a 5.8, and that's actually all energy weapons, so it does really well without resupply. Flashman's that's a good pick.
No, I'm taking Flashman.
You can shop through the variants.
I just need a little rubber kiddie pool to stand in while I shoot. It's pretty hot.
And I do recommend actually looking at the stats in case we do end up switching back to regular BattleTech, so you're not stuck with a mech that works well in Alpha Strike, but in the details of BattleTech would actually get turned to crap. So, and you guys will have some opportunities to do some custom mods on your mech as the game progresses. But
what's a good faster, slightly higher tonnage, like faster mid tonnage skirmisher, not like long range, something that.
Well, especially as a Curitan, there's two I would recommend: the Kintaro and the Crab.
The dragon also fits into that.
Oh, the dragon, yeah. How did I blank out on the dragon? Or more accurately, its cousin, the Grand Dragon.
That's what you have me here for.
Thank you. I don't know why I'm thinking about Curitan Skirmishers. I blanked on the Grand Dragon. That's a nice mech. The Grand Dragon, the Wolf Trap is another one that would fit your bill. The Curitans have a really nice variant of the Shadowhawk that it's, I think, AC5 and a PPC.
Yeah, the 2K.
They have, like I said, I already mentioned the Crab. There's the Kintaro, and that has a few variants that you can look at. Those are both pretty decent skirmishers.
You want something that can really wade in and just, especially a whale on infantry. The Komodo came out around this time, and the Komodo would be like something new that would be given to you, but it was intended as an elemental hunter. So it has like 6 medium lasers and a couple of anti-missile systems on it, and it's fast.
And what was that called?
That's the KM2 Komodo.
Yes.
It's light medium. I believe it's 40 tons, but I'd have to double check.
Yeah, given where you guys are, I'll grant just about anything from 2750, 3025, 3050, or 3055. Though 3055, I'd want a story on where that came from. Okay, anything else?
Got a lot of sheets to look through.
Good to go, brah.
We got 2 weeks, so alrighty then. You guys at home, have a great week and all that stuff. For anyone that wants the audio version, you might be getting this a day or two late because I need to get this posted and then scrape the audio. But that's the rest of you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you guys in a couple weeks.
See ya.
Take care, all.